Hello, everyone. Welcome to the comment section on HAPS TV. I'm your host, Shivani Prasad. I'm really excited to have you here today for our fourth episode with Andy Hirschfeld. And on the comment section, we debunk, explain, review, and answer questions about comments left by people on your favorite social channels: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, and more. We answer questions like, is this comment true? Should it be making you question your beliefs? Is it just something to consider, or is it a game changer? We talk to experts to get you the answers that you need. Thanks for joining us today on the comment section. Today, we're talking all about election misinformation and some rumors that were floating around social media last week. We're going to go through a few tweets that we found. Sorry, not last week, this week I meant. We're going to go through a few tweets that we found. So first, that discussion, I wanted to talk about it. And so I brought in somebody that I know and think is really a great expert to talk to. There's a lot going on here and a lot to be explained. So here to talk to us today is Andy Hirschfeld. Andy is an award-winning journalist based in New York City. His work has appeared in many publications, including the New York Observer, Aussie, Yahoo Finance, Fortune Magazine, Al Jazeera, and many more. He mainly covers the cost of living related issues through a social lens, as well as business, tech, and politics. He's the author of the book Stolen Dignity and has another book in the works. And Andy is also the managing editor of a publication that I love to write for called America in Context. And he's also a fellow host here on HAPS. So I'm going to welcome Andy to the show. Hi, Andy.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So Andy and I kind of were searching for some comments that we thought would be valuable to debunk and explain and review. And we found these ones and we thought that they would be really valuable and worth it to explain because, as we know, there has been so much content coming out about the election. And if you're not somebody that's necessarily in politics or has the time to cover this on a daily basis, it can be really overwhelming. And so we thought this would be a really good one to explain. And Andy's the perfect person to do that. So let's start at the beginning, Andy. What is Mark referring to in this tweet? Because it kind of seems like he's saying that these Republican states can choose their number of electors. And is he trying to say that that means that they can do that regardless of the number of votes?
Well, that's what he's kind of implying or suggesting. Can he do that? No. Not you can't exactly just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they can appoint their own electors, but under that state's particular law, and the law of most other states, is that they kind of have to fall in line with the popular vote or the overwhelming popular the voters of that state and many other states have spoken. One, obviously, right now, they're still counting ballots. So coming up with any conclusion before the race is called by any network publication or watchdog group or the government itself is just it's grasping at straws. It's a show. He's an on-air talent and talent, and so it's just kind of it's grasping at straws, and it's ignoring the fact that Joe Biden has, in the popular vote at least, has got millions more votes than Donald Trump.
Right.
It's ignoring the fact that in all of the current states that are left, that with the exception of North Carolina, which is the other kind of battleground state here, there is also Alaska and a congressional district in Maine that still has yet to be called, but it's pretty clear. Those are definitely going to go to the president. But the fact of the matter is, these margins in these other states are getting clear. Now, one of the reasons why it didn't look that way in the beginning, and I said this kind of from the get-go, is that these votes were coming from cities. Cities have always, or overwhelmingly, coming from cities, and cities for the most part have always went towards Democrats.
Right.
And the president has railed against mail-in voting, which in Pennsylvania at least they count after all of the election day ballots are counted. So one, if the president's railing against it, his supporters overwhelmingly aren't going to vote that way. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is saying, has said, do that, go out and vote by mail. So just obviously it was going to look better for Trump on election night, but the ultimate outcome of the election was going to go in Joe Biden's favor. This was really not exactly surprising, but it's kind of in par with this argument that they kind of Trump and his allies kind of continue to push, and it's concerning. It's concerning.
Yes, and we continue to see them, as Andy and I were going through many comments in the last few days trying to figure out which one would be the most valuable to talk about on the show. There were many, many comments about, dead voters voting, illegal immigrants voting, or like illegals, as they like to call them. And they were saying, there were so many talking about these 6,000 votes that were supposed to go to the Republican Party that are now going to Joe Biden. There are just so many rumors about it. And it's continuously getting flagged by all of the different social media outlets. And so my second question is about that. So shifting from the actual meat of the politics here, and sort of about how it's now become the job of these social channels to manage the conversation and make sure the truth is getting out there. Kayleigh here is obviously confused, right? She is confusing something that was blocked with something that was flagged. But also, is she out of context here when she's talking about Ayatollah Khamenei? There was big debate around this. I remember when this happened, people were saying, and a lot of people on obviously Kayleigh's side were saying that, somebody shouldn't be allowed to tweet about a quote unquote genocide. And there was a lot of debate about that tweet in general and if it itself should have been flagged or taken down. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Well, it's a false equivalency, right? You're one, she's right. That tweet should have been taken down. They're under the terms of service of the outlet of Twitter. It says, don't incite violence. If you incite violence, your tweet is going to be reported. It's going to be taken down. So, that's true. They've been inconsistent with that. And that's one of the problems facing a lot of these big social media companies, Twitter, Facebook in particular, with some of the content that's on their platform. With that being said, it's kind of humorous that Republicans are the ones that are going after this because they're much friendlier to Republicans. They've had a lot more. They really are a lot more forgiving of Republicans saying frankly stupid things, and not when it comes to Democrats. And so it's kind of humorous that they're the ones kind of leading the charge here. Second, the tweet was not censored. It was fact checked, and you can still see the tweet. She
Mhm.
retweeted the tweet.
Right.
So like putting context around the misleading misinformation tweet that Mark put out there, right? So it's just providing some additional context. I'm not saying we need to take this guy's word for it, right? It's in their terms of service. They're not censoring him. They're just providing a little, warning, and which, personally, I don't think is enough. I don't think it's enough at all.
Hmm.
And they're a private company, right? They have every they're not they're not a news agency. They're not the airway. Like they have can make choices on what goes on their platform and what doesn't. Is that great? Well, it depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But the fact of the matter is, they're a private company in the United States, and that's just par of the course, right? So it's really just like they're not censoring you, they're fact checking you, and the information that you're putting out there is misleading and it's potentially dangerous, right? So we're really just that's just kind of where we are. Um, you know, I wouldn't say Kaylee's confused. I'd say she's very conscious of what she's doing.
Hmm.
She know and she's aware of this. The thing about Kaylee is she's really, really good at her job.
Hmm.
And by and her job is really standing up and defending the indefensible.
Hmm.
So, she's really good at that. And this is just another instance of that she is standing up and defending something that is very clearly black and white indefensible, and
And
trying to compare it to something that is also indefensible.
right. And even if you go on the tweet now, I went just to check. And even if you go on it now, there's the little information bar that comes up at the bottom that says votes are not yet like 100% counted, like not all of the votes are in, kind of thing. So there's still a disclaimer there. And I think, like you said, they're really just trying to regulate to the best of their ability when information is misleading or is inciting some sort of violence or something like that. But
Well,
I would agree
also,
with, go ahead.
there is the instances of voter fraud, which they're suggesting is widespread, which is just not the case.
Right.
Does happen, but it's incredibly limited. It's
Hmm.
50 votes, maybe nationwide, if
Right.
even. And that's, these are things that, and by that I mean over several elections, right? So this is very, very grasping at straws. Plus, Joe Biden is ahead in so many states by thousands, tens of thousands of votes. So if there was a handful of if there was any fraudulent votes, if there was anything there, it would not add up to enough to change the vote there, to change the count. It's just not there. This is grasping at straws to support their guy, and at the same
Hmm.
time, it's really undermining kind of the very basics of democracy, which is incredibly concerning. Um, we can't say this is a surprise. I mean, Donald Trump has never exactly been have an ounce of humility that he's shown, and this is just yet another example. We've expected this. We expect that he was trying to delegitimize the outcome of the election for months, saying that there was going to be some kind of fraud, that he was going to see what happens when the election results came in. This is very obvious. We knew this was going to happen, and it's continuing to happen. So,
Hmm.
you know,
And let's just talk quickly about that third tweet. Does it make covers this for their jobs like we do, you might not know all these individual laws about all these different states. So I wanted to know, does it make sense what's being said, and what are they referring to in that last tweet there about Wisconsin?
Well, so Wisconsin, they the thing is with Wisconsin, it is swayed in kind of the same direction, that the same margins that Donald Trump won in 2016, but kind of swayed back in the other direction. The lawsuits that were filed, and this is kind of, the same thing, is that if there's any voter suppression or any voter fraud, excuse me, lots of voter suppression, but if there's any voter fraud, it's very, very limited. And that's why judges are throwing out these cases when they come to the courts, right? That's why this kind of stuff is happening. Is that?
I think that makes sense. Sorry, there was a little bit of lag there. That's why I took a second to get back to you. And my last question really is, again, we're sort of doing this for, the people who, it still happens to me, right, can easily get caught up in watching something or reading something, and then you scroll down to the comment section and you're left more confused than when you came in trying to learn something, right? So my question for you, Andy, is what are your suggestions for voters and, just viewers and readers in general to stay away from information on social media?
It's a great question. You should really be sure to get your information from verifiable news sources, from the actual state governments themselves. You can follow those counts. If you go to just about any news agency, whether it's the New York Times or even Fox News, but go on their projection count, they'll have the numbers there listed. They'll have them on their .com and say, this is the amount of people that have voted. Here's the count right now. Here's how many precincts are reporting. Look past the editorial stance of the various places. So make sure to go there to find these places. Secondly, you got to acknowledge that every time there's some kind of contentious conversation on social media, all of a sudden people that learned about something 15 minutes ago are all of a sudden experts because they Googled it and read a quick law blog or something.
Right.
Follow and make sure the people that are answering these questions are people that have, I mean, at the very least, a surface level knowledge of what they're talking about. I mean, that's just, very basic news literacy stuff. It's human nature to see something that you either agree with and try and double down with, versus seeing something you don't agree with, feeling attacked and trying to push back at it. That's just normal. But taking a step back and saying, where is this information coming from? Is this a reliable source? Do the people who are saying this, offering commentary, have some kind of insight that is particularly helpful? That is particularly, I don't want to use the word legitimate, but I mean, people are experts in things for reasons.
Right.
So, if I wouldn't want my lawyer to be someone who 15 minutes before read a blog post or something from that he, read a blog post from Law and Crime or some, these legitimate organizations, but all of a sudden they're experts in constitutional law. No, go to somebody who's a verified expert of constitutional law.
Well, and I think also something that we have to do, obviously, as journalists, is when we're doing our own fact checking and things like that, it's unfortunate because, again, like I said, I know it's hard for your average citizen because not everybody has time to fact check the crap out of something. But one thing that we do is, if we hear a source, or when you're reading an article and something is linked, you click and click and click and click until you can get to the last link of where that came from to make sure that it's coming from a a legitimate source, right? Also, a great comment in our comment section. I would add that people should consume multiple sources. Multiple perspectives will expand someone's mind. Yes, Cameron, that's absolutely true. I think always read from different news sources, right? Don't ever take from just one. Also, we have a question from Mark Goldman, not Levin. Do you think that they are filing these lawsuits because they think that they have a chance of changing the election results or for some other purpose? I personally think, I'm not sure if Donald Trump himself thinks that they can actually change these results. I think we know that for the most part, experts say that recounts and challenges don't really have an outcome of being any different than the initial outcome. So it's very unlikely that they're going to invest in the time and money and resources it would take to do a recount or contest these things. But what do you think, Andy?
Donald Trump knows this. He knows he's not going to win. He knows it's over. But he has, through his entire life, proven that he is a sore loser and that he is trying to essentially buy time and make this look illegitimate. And so that when he does leave office, he'll be like, I was cheated. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's going to leave. He's going to leave. It's just a matter of how at this point. And so, I mean, that's kind of the big question here, right? There is he knows this. No good lawyer is going to try and actually defend this, and judges are continually throwing this stuff out. There are a few legitimate cases, sure, but the margins that they're looking at are just way too big to differentiate anything. The president did finally come to terms with something, a good takeaway. Yesterday, reportedly, he was saying that, his legal team with Rudy Giuliani is incompetent. So that's a step in the right direction, that he, acknowledged that Rudy Giuliani is incompetent. And, that's kind of par for the course here. But I mean, no good lawyer would be able to defend this, Right. So there's no case. So that's just kind of the reality of where we are right now. Trump knows this. He's a sore loser. He's always been a sore loser. He's just showing it right now.
Right.
It's just, and I've said this before, like his process reflects that he has very low self-confidence. Yeah. Somebody who had high self-confidence would be like, you know what? I lost. Okay. Good luck. I'll help you. Like, this doesn't feel good, but it's bigger than you and me. Like, he would do that. Like, right. That's what somebody who acts like a leader. That's what they would do.
Right. And he clearly, is always compensating, right? We can tell that he's sort of a malignant narcissist. So we can he has like some sort of superiority complex, and he's constantly trying to prove it to himself. So this is no different.
The COVID stuff, it's like, these are huge priorities and you're wasting time to address this properly, which the president, there was no good way to address COVID, but there was a way to make situations worse. And that's the path that Donald Trump chose, right? But right now, he is making it even worse. Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, has coronavirus right now, right? The last couple that we've seen several days this week of more than 100,000 people get diagnosed in the United States, get diagnosed with the coronavirus, with COVID-19. So it's just, these policies are just sitting back, and these problems are continuing to grow while the president is fighting something that is just not winnable for him.
Right. Cameron actually asked another great question. He said, it'll be interesting to see Trump's post-presidency life. Will he be a TV star again or become a right-wing avatar to build the Republican Party? It's interesting because there are actually so many anti-Trump Republicans. So I'd be really interested to see. What do you think about that, Andy?
I don't think he ever wanted to be in politics. I don't think when he ran for president, he wanted to win. I think his whole thing was he wanted to start a Fox News alternative, and
Mm,
he did not think that he could win, and then he won. And that's what he's going to do. Jared Kushner, there's reporting that he's been meeting with private equity to come up with the financial output to put together a Trumpian version of a extreme right wing, essentially competitor of the Fox News opinion side, and that's kind of exactly what I think that he's going to do. And if you watch it, I'm fairly sure it's going to be like Infowars with a better budget.
right.
It's that's kind of what I'm expecting, and frankly, that's what I think he wants to do. I mean, he's been his most successful venture is his most successful venture is that he had a reality show.
Right.
I mean, he bankrupted casinos. He had several failed ventures, Trump University, Trump Airlines. It's just the only thing he's actually good at is television. And if he's has his own network, he doesn't have to really have these checks and balances. And at the
Right.
end of the day, I think that's what he wants to do, and he will do that and then say that's what he wanted to do all along.
Right. Well, we'll all be watching to see if that happens. Andy, thanks so much for coming on the show. I hope everything is all right. I hope all my journalist friends are getting some sleep and doing, some self-care checks on themselves. I know this hasn't been an easy week, so I'm so grateful that you came on the show. I think it was a great conversation. And if you guys haven't checked out Andy's publication, America in Context, it's really great. I had a great time writing for it. And Andy also has a show on HAPS called America in Context. Do you just want to tell everybody what time your show comes on, Andy?
Yeah, it's Fridays noon Eastern.
All right.
It's a single issue talk show. We talk about primarily, issues related to cost of living concerns. So, we spent a lot of time talking about how we did a show where we fact checked Trump's claims on the Obama versus his economy, things like that. Those are the kinds of things that we discuss on that program.
Okay, awesome. And guys, don't forget that you can find Andy on Twitter and Instagram at Andy Reports. I'm just going to push it to the program right here so you can see. Sorry, there you go. It should come up now at Andy Reports.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the plug. Always appreciate those.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hope you have a great day. And thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. Don't forget, you can always send in comments that you want us to discuss on the show by DMing me on any platform. The comment section will be live every Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on HAPS TV. Thanks for joining us. For